But so thank y'all for coming out here and being with me. I'm going to ask you to take a little walk with me back down memory lane. 6 years ago, at this time, I was making up my mind to run for DA, for district attorney. And I think all of us, when we reflect back on those years, that's a long time ago, but it's gone very quickly, we knew that things weren't right in the district attorney's office. And the public felt that as well, and that's why they voted for me, because they believed that there needed to be a change, there needed to be a reform in the DA's office and of the DA's office. And of course now, we know that the district attorney at that time, whose seat I sit in, is seated in a federal penitentiary, convicted of theft and corruption. And now we look back and we know that at that point, the leading leader of the largest law enforcement organization in the 22nd Judicial District is under state and federal indictment for corruption and sex crimes. And so the public, which was disillusioned and disappointed and voted to put me into office, had reason to believe that there needed to be a change. So I took office, and I've made a lot of changes. I put in a screening division, which has accelerated the time from arrest to conviction, which has made sure that the proper people are charged with the proper crimes. I've added additional professional, ethical, talented assistant district attorneys. I've overhauled our domestic violence unit, and now we have convictions in the domestic violence area, and which will lead to fewer acts of domestic violence and fewer violent crimes. And I've done all this, and at the same time have charged more felonies and maintained a high felony arrest to felony conviction rate. And finally, I've shortened up the time period from arrest to resolution of the cases, and that's resulted in millions of dollars of taxpayer savings. Those are all changes that came about as a result of you, the people, putting me into this position. Now, those changes didn't come easy. I had to step on some powerful toes. I had to stand up to the political establishment. And I made people in the criminal element concerned and afraid, because what I said then is what I say now. I won't back down, I won't back up, and I won't back off. I promised the people of the 22nd Judicial District that we would have a great DA's office, and we have a great DA's office because we have great people working in that office. I'm proud of their work, and you, the people of Washington and St. Tammany, deserve a great DA's office, and that's what I'm working hard every day to deliver. So thank you for being here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Warren, how difficult was this decision for you, given some of your recent health challenges?
This was an easy decision. When I ran, 6 years ago, I knew it would take a while to see these changes and see the fruit of these changes come to fruition. And so that really wasn't an issue, to be quite honest with you. I guess if things had turned out differently, it might have been an issue, but I have a green light from my doctors. As a matter of fact, they said they would vote for me, even the doctor from Texas. So, I feel good, and I'm looking forward to the race. Thank goodness we live in America and we can have political races and we can talk about the issues, and I can use those issues to improve the performance of my office and improve my service to the community.
One of your challengers, Vincent Wynn, was signing up just now. He was claiming that you've sort of lost touch with some local law enforcement
Well, my understanding is Randy Seal decided not to support me because I wouldn't fix a ticket. and if that's the basis on which you decide whether or not to support somebody in law enforcement, then good riddance. There's nothing I can say or do about that. As I said, we are charging and convicting more felonies. We've reduced the time from felony arrest to felony conviction. We have an improved domestic violence unit. We're saving the taxpayer money. These are all results that they don't come from me. They come from the Metropolitan Crime Commission and from Ed B., an economist who did an analysis of the results. So, I can't make everybody happy. My job isn't to make all the politicians happy. My job is to keep our community safe and to enforce the law fairly, efficiently, and effectively on behalf of the people, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
A lot of people have been waiting for the trial of Jack Strain to get underway. Talk to me a little bit about how difficult that has been to proceed, given his interaction with federal authorities on those charges and the condition with COVID-19 in the courthouse.
Well, I think his trial is really just going to be handled like anybody else's trial to some extent. He needs a jury in order for that trial to come to fruition. And under these circumstances with the coronavirus, the COVID-19, naturally people are reluctant to serve as jurors, and we're having difficulty establishing, I say we're having difficulty, that it's the judges ultimately who are responsible for that, but I think they're having difficulty setting up the jury rooms in such a way that jurors feel comfortable to hear the evidence. In the case of Jack Strain, that would probably be a week or 2 week trial, and naturally we want the citizens to feel comfortable that they're safe when they come and hear the evidence. So I can't tell you when that's going to be. We obviously have a challenge here at this courthouse in Covington, but likewise federally, where he's also facing charges. I think that trial is set for October, if I'm not mistaken, and they'll face similar challenges. I can say that on behalf of my office, we're prepared for trial. We're ready for trial. We want the trial. Not only that trial, but all the trials. And people deserve their trials on a speedy basis and as soon as possible. So we're ready, and as soon as the judge feels that these trials can be held safely, we'll tee it up.
Warren, you opened up talking about how you succeeded Walter Reed, who now sits in the federal penitentiary. Did you have a clean house when you came in? How many people, what percentage of staff have you had to turn over since you took over?
Well, as I told people at the time, I'm not going to clean house, but I am going to go room to room tidying up. And so some people left the office prior to me taking office. The week before I took office, a number of people resigned. Then a number of people left because I, in fact, let them go at the end of the first week. And since that time, there's been an adjustment, and people have left, some of their own volition, some not. Some people just, for any number of reasons, decided to retire. And of course, I've brought people in, and we've had continued turnover because naturally, when you have a high performance office, you're going to have a certain amount of turnover because the other district attorneys want to hire your good people away, and they offer more money. And so I don't want to call it a game, but that's a challenge that you have. Anytime you have a high performance organization, whether it's the New Orleans Saints or whether it's the LSU football team, they're going to be sophomores and juniors who would rather go pro after the national championship season. And I feel like we have an excellent organization, a good team of people, and so naturally some of them are going to move on to greener pastures for a variety of reasons. So we've had a good bit of turnover, but we have frankly, the organization we have now is a lot of fine people. I'm very proud of them, and I'm really focused on the results. And the results are very positive for the people of St. Tammany and Washington parishes.
Is there any backup? I mean, obviously trials aren't ongoing at this point, but in your office, as far as investigations go, cases being made, you just now sit there?
No, we're not really sitting there. For every trial, there's 10 hours, every hour of trial, there's 10 hours worth of preparation. And so we've taken an opportunity over the last 6 months to advance our preparation so that when trials are permitted, we're going to hit the ground running. And we're going to be very, very well prepared for those trials. I was just visiting with some of the judges who were qualifying this morning, and we're all aware that when we can get past this COVID situation, there's going to be a whole lot of criminal trials because people need to have their day in court.
Warren, how different will campaigning be this time around from 6 years ago, given the constraints on your ability to go meet with different groups and that sort of thing?
Well, certainly there's going to be less personal interaction, or if there is interaction, we're both going to have masks on. And so that definitely hinders that personal contact. And I think there are going to be less of these parish fairs and get-togethers, et cetera, because people are concerned about their health. So I presume, and I'm basing this on what the experts in politics and political campaigns tell me, that social media will play a more important role in these campaigns. And I'm prepared to do that. And fortunately for me, I've been out talking to people for years. In fact, later this week, I'm going to talk to a Rotary Club and a Kiwanis Club, and I think next week an Elks Club and different political organizations, et cetera. So even though I think it's going to be different, I think it's going to be more difficult, frankly, for the challengers. People like myself who are incumbent, who have a high name recognition, I think are at an advantage in this political season. Yes, sir, Kevin.
You made all these changes with the screening process, and we know that early on there were some criticism from law enforcement, some texts and such we talked about
Yes.
months ago. How do you see that situation now with the changes? Have they accepted it more so, or what?
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a great question. You know, and I told one of your colleagues here today that if I had any regrets, I wish I had communicated more with law enforcement earlier in my administration. Because change is difficult. People resist change. And in order to get to the high morale, high ethics, high performance organization that my office needed to be and that the people deserve, I was going to have to make some changes. So I've spoken with all these people in law enforcement. I think they understand why we made those changes. And more important than that, I think they can see the results, the tangible statistical results of better prosecutions as a result of these changes. And so I think people are on board now. Now, again, some people, for any number of reasons, including tickets or whatever else, may not be on board. But I'm here to work with law enforcement. I'm here to work with the judges. But the judges don't work for me, and law enforcement doesn't work for me. We work together. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
2 people are booked for the murder over the weekend in Big Branch, first-degree murder and infanticide. Would you seek the death penalty against those suspects?
I don't have the facts on those cases. We haven't received the police reports, and so it would be premature for me to make a determination as to whether or not I'd seek the death penalty. Good question. Just it's premature. Any other questions? All righty, thank you all so much. I'm sorry I was delayed in getting over here. I apologize.